When we speak of the St. George's Cross, we're not merely describing a flag, we're touching one of the most ancient and charged symbols in English life. The red cross on white has been England's emblem for over 7 centuries, adopted as the national flag during the Crusades, worn by English soldiers since the reign of Edward I. It symbolised a Christian martyr, St. George, who, according to legend, slew the dragon and defended the innocent. In fact, he stood up for his belief in front of the army. By the 14th century, St. George had been declared England's patron saint, and his banner, once a crusader's emblem, became a unifying symbol of faith and courage. Over time, that flag acquired a civic life beyond religion. It appeared on ships of exploration, in parish churches, in village fairs. During the English Reformation, when the other saintly symbols were banned, the cross of St. George remained the one sacred emblem permitted to fly, a quiet sign of continuity in the middle of upheaval. In our own day, it adorns football shirts, pubs, parish halls, embodying that curious blend of the sacred and the local that defines English identity. And that brings me to Pewsbury in Wiltshire, a quiet, deeply English market town, and the Moonrakers Inn. Its name itself recalls an old Wiltshire legend: smugglers caught by excise men while raking moonlight on a pond, pretending they were trying to rescue a wheel of cheese reflected on the water. The term moonraker became a fond nickname for Wiltshire folk, shrewd, earthy, a little mischievous. That such a pub should bear the cross of St. George on its walls feels almost poetic. Jerry Conkler, the landlord since 1981 and Wiltshire's longest-serving councillor, painted the cross originally for the 2016 Euros and again for the 2022 World Cup. For nearly a decade, nobody objected. The pub was and remains a family-friendly, inclusive venue festooned with bunting for St. George's Day, royal jubilees and sporting events. In short, the kind of establishment that threads patriotism into conviviality. And then this week an email arrived. The timing was extraordinary. 1 hour after the pub appeared in a Reform UK video featuring the MP Danny Kruger, who recently defected from the Conservatives. The council's planning officer declared that unauthorised works had been carried out on the Grade 2 listed building and ordered the red cross to be painted over within 14 days. Officially, the issue is about planning law, repainting a listed facade without permission. Unofficially, the row exposes something deeper: a tension between heritage protection, political sensitivity, and the public meaning of national symbols. For the council, this may be a procedural matter. Listed buildings require consent for any change in exterior paint colour, yet it is telling that the matter only arose after the Reform video, and that an anonymous complainant described the pub as looking like the headquarters of the National Front. That accusation, though baseless, shows how easily the cross of St. George has become entangled in modern anxieties about nationalism, extremism, and identity. The same flag, once carried by Richard the Lionheart, is now to some a troubling emblem of division. Mr. Kruger was right to call the decision absurd. I'm not a fan of Mr. Kruger. I'm not a fan of Reform UK. The flag is not a political device. It's a cultural one rooted in history, not partisanship. To suggest that painting a St. George's cross on an English pub constitutes extremism is both historically illiterate and socially corrosive. It collapses a centuries-old emblem of faith and identity into a symbol of fear. Worse, it reveals how local government can drift into cultural policing under the guise of bureaucracy. And surely, if something has been there since 1981, it has its own history. Of course, listed building law exists for good reason, to preserve architectural heritage, but heritage itself must include living traditions, not just frozen brickwork. The Moonrakers is not a museum. It's a gathering place, a space where local identity breathes. If St. George's Cross cannot be painted there, where can it be painted? One could argue that it's precisely because the building is historic that such a symbol belongs on it. The inn, like the flag, speaks of endurance, of community, of continuity, of a certain stubborn Englishness. Behind this local skirmish lies a national unease. England today struggles to express its identity confidently. The Union Jack belongs to the United Kingdom, the Saltire to Scotland, the Red Dragon to Wales, but the Cross of St. George for England has been left orphaned by history. Too Christian for the secular, too nationalist for the liberal, too traditional for the modern. It has been misused by extremists, yes, but also neglected by those who fear guilt by association. The result is absurdities like this, a parish council treating an ancient national emblem as though it were graffiti. Yet there's also something revealing and even hopeful in the reaction. Support for Jerry Kunkler has poured in across the country. People recognise in this small act of overreach a much larger question. Who owns our symbols? Are they the property of bureaucrats and committees or of people who live under them? The St. George's Cross, properly understood, belongs to everyone in England, Christian, secular or otherwise, as a shared cultural inheritance. It unites us with other countries, with Malta, and it's been reinterpreted through the centuries, from Crusader banner to football flag, from altar cloth to pub wall. It can and should represent an inclusive patriotism rather than an exclusive one. In that sense, the Moonrakers controversy is not trivial at all. It's a microcosm of a national debate about how England sees itself, timid, bureaucratic and apologetic, or proud, open and unashamed of its shared heritage. The Council's action, whatever its procedural justification, seems tone deaf to the public mood. One might even say it misunderstands the role of governance to preserve the spirit of place, not extinguish it in red tape. So here we are. A pub named after a folklore, a tale, a cross painted in good faith, a complainant rooted in fear, a council that mistook symbolism for subversion. The Moonraker story may fade from headlines, but it raises enduring questions. Can English identity be expressed without suspicion? Can heritage be protected without suffocating it? And can we, at last, reclaim our flag from those who would distort its meaning, whether radicals or regulators? For my part, I would suggest this: the Red Cross on white has survived crusades, reformations, revolutions and wars. It will outlast this one too. England has always been a country that renews its traditions through controversy. And if the Cross of St. George can once again become a banner of inclusion rather than exclusion, then perhaps even the Wiltshire Council will have played its unintended part by reminding us how much the flag still matters.